meeting to order with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
Recording in progress.
which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay. So, Happy New Year. So I'd like to call this meeting to order and start with a motion to accept the regular minutes of our last held board meeting from December 12th. Okay, so Cindy and Rebecca, any comments, corrections, changes? Hearing none, seeing none, motion to accept the regular minutes, say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. Any abstentions? Okay, motion carries. At this point, we'll open it up to public comment if there are any comments from those who are present or on Zoom. Okay, hearing and seeing none, close public comment. And Ed, we will go to you for wastewater treatment plant report. Water and wastewater. Can't hear you.
You muted. Yeah, you did.
I didn't mute anybody. No, I muted my own machine. I didn't mute him. Ed, you're on mute. Ed is now gone. I don't know. He dropped off. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So while we wait for Ed to get reconnected, Tracy, would you do the treasurer's report?
Sure. Quarterly reports are completed for New York State IRS, workman's comp and disability. W-2s will be completed and given out with payroll this week. 1099s will also be mailed by the end of the week. The request for reimbursement for the fire department's UTV grant has been audited, and we should receive payment around the 17th
Of January.
Okay. Yep, in the amount of $50,000. She has, so financial report number 7 is ready for review, and abstract number 14.
Okay.
We'll need approval, and then she has the resolution. I don't know if you want me to read it out.
If you would.
Okay, this is resolution, I believe, number 23. Resolution for the village designation of election date and registration date. Whereas this resolution shall be known as village election designation of election and registration date and appointment of election inspectors. Whereas the Board of Trustees must adopt a resolution at least 60 days before the general election designating Tuesday, March 21st, 2023, the day of the village election, identifying the polling place in each district and the hours during which the polls will be open, which shall include at least hours from 12 noon until 9 p.m. Whereas the Board of Trustees must adopt a resolution providing there shall be no village registration day. Whereas the Board of Trustees must appoint 2 election inspectors for the village general election. Therefore, be it resolved that the village general election will be held on March 21st, 2023, and the official polling place for the village speculator general election will be held March 21st, 2023, shall be at the Village Hall, 2875 State Route 8, and shall be held between the hours of 12 noon and 9 p.m. Be it resolved that there shall not be registration day for the Village Speculator General Election to be held on March 21st, 2023, and the Village Speculator shall adopt a listing of eligible voters of the County of Hamilton Village Speculator section as a list of eligible voters for such election. And be it resolved that the following persons shall be appointed as election inspectors for the general election to be held on Tuesday, March 21st, 2023. Tony Morrison and Shirley Smith.
Okay, I'd like a motion to accept the resolution.
Moved.
Mark, second. Cindy, any comments, questions about the motion? We have to do it 60 days before the election, and the positions that are open for this go around is the position of mayor and 2 trustees. All right, all in favor of approving the election resolution, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Motion carries. And it dings. Okay, Tracy, Ed is trying to.
I'm in.
Oh, hi, Ed. All right, and I'm just going to finish up the clerks. So I'd like a motion to approve abstract number, what number is it?
14.
14.
Second.
Second, any comments or questions? Okay, hearing none, all in favor to approve paying abstract number 14, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Now we'll go back to Ed. Welcome back, Ed.
Yeah, I apologize for that. My phone went a little wacky.
No worries.
Okay, I will start with the water department. All of our samples for nitrate, sodium, asbestos came back. They were all fine within MCL limits. Doing a lot of working on end-of-year reports at this time. I was planning on having the 5-year plan for you this meeting, but I'm still waiting on some updated pricing for the original 5-year plan. Obviously, pricing's changed. As for operations, there was a leak at the health center found on Christmas. Come to find out, it was a service connection wrap that had failed, a saddle. It was put in '99, so they weren't made as good as they are today. So hopefully we don't have more of those pop up, but we will see. Normal checking chlorine and phosphate throughout the week. We did add some flags to hydrants because some of them were a little too close for comfort on the main roads. We've had some changes in who plows the roads, so in that case, they're not likely to know where they are. And then the FEMA water crossing that was added to the Hamilton County paper last week. This week we're supposed to have a company come in and do some drilling to determine bedrock and things of that nature, soil determinations. And then as for the wastewater plant, same thing with the 5-year plan. I have more end-of-the-year reports I have to work on for there. Operations, as you all know, the last meeting I had discussed Pump Station 3 having some issues with a pump that was sent out to either be fixed or replaced. I received a quote for a new replacement, and it came in at $9,325. I did attempt to get a few other quotes from other companies and brands. However, due to the design of the station, if we were to go with a different brand, we would have to change the pitless adapters and such on the bottom because they're not compatible, or we'd have to retrofit the other pump. So I think the best way to go about this is just to replace it with same as.
Okay, if you, for putting that in, if you would just summarize that statement in the rationale for going with this replacement pump.
Other brands were more expensive, and
No. When you submit it, when you submit the purchase for the replacement of the current pump that you've selected, make sure you give the rationale why that one was provided in writing to go with that purchase, as per our procurement policy.
Okay, sounds good. I will do that.
Okay.
Yes, go ahead. Oh, never mind. Pump stations are still checked bi-weekly. As for the upgrade project, 99% of that is complete. We have some minor things that need to be addressed, but we need both tanks in operation in around June for them to figure all that out. And they have to come back and kind of show me how it all works and everything. And then as for other projects, as I said, the FEMA project was put in the paper as those two projects were put together. And then we have a pre-bid meeting for the sites on the 11th, and bids are due on the 20th.
Do you know what time on the 11th?
I think it said, Crystal asked, I think I saw the email, I think it was 10 a.m. for the pre-bid meeting. It was 10 or 11. I don't have my email in front of me, or I would check.
Okay, 10 a.m. It's been confirmed by Trustee Smith.
Did we move that
Okay,
to
thanks.
the office, or are we doing that at the wastewater plant?
It'll be held at the village offices.
The pre-bid meeting is more of a, the contractors would come down to the wastewater plant, we would all get together, and then we would just go out to the sites to see the area and what they're working with. That's not really anything to do with the board or anything.
All right.
I mean, you're more welcome to come if you'd like.
Yes, of course. Brendan had asked me, and I had mentioned the village. He had given the option for that, the village hall or the.
Oh, that's fine. Just not how it was done before. That works for me.
Okay. So 10 o'clock village hall pre-bid meeting.
Right. And then we'll go out and check the sites so the contractors can see what they're working with and whatnot.
Right. Will we have
Ask any questions at that time, and
Will we have the results from the bedrock testing by then? I don't know how long it takes to come out testing.
I mean, yeah, generally you'll have that. If Brendan's here when they do it, he'll know pretty much same day, but if not, then the report should be sent over relatively quickly.
Okay, good.
And then as for yes, go ahead.
I know at our last board meeting, we were giving the people who are gonna bid like 5 or 6 weeks to put their bid together. And since this didn't come out until January 6th, I'm wondering if we're giving people enough time. Like you're mentioning, you're checking on cost of things, they're gonna have to check on cost of things. It seems like that January 20th is not enough time to get a professional bid together, to me.
So it's only 19 people giving them.
I think what happened was originally the bid was supposed to be put in the paper 3 weeks ago, and then we had a deadline for when the bids we wanted them in so we could get moving forward. And because it wasn't put in on time due to family matters and whatnot, we kind of shortened that window a little bit. I think we could probably ask and extend it. I don't think it'd be an issue, but I'll talk to Brendan tomorrow about that.
Yeah,
Do you have a date in mind you'd like?
Well, I would think
Or
I would think that at least February 1st. I don't know what day February 1st is, but at least another 10 days.
I'll talk with Brendan tomorrow, and I'll try to do it on the same day as the 20th. I think that's a Monday. Is that a Monday? So I'll try to push it like 2 more weeks if you want.
Say
Well,
it
it
again?
just seems if you're gonna give 5 to 6 weeks, I think we should still against that, given it's not
So it's either
a
6
bigger
or
problem that we're delayed 3 or 4 weeks. Why are we expecting them to make up that difference?
Yeah, I think it was miscommunication more than anything.
Yeah, so either the 6th or the 13th.
Yeah, I think we
Okay, I will talk to Brendan. I will talk to Brendan tomorrow to change that.
Let's do the 13th of February because that would give them a month. Because we want the best price and we want people to be able to put that in, and then not be scrambling.
And given our site fee, come and ask questions and get that whole ball rolling.
Correct.
That's going to probably change the pre-bid meeting too.
Isn't the pre-bid meeting on Wednesday?
It's on the 11th. That's supposed to be this Wednesday. And if you're worried about people not having bids in time, how are you going to have contractors here within 2 days? So you may want to just change everything. Or they can come up later like I've had in the past. I've had them come up after the 11th to see the sites.
So when did this go in the paper?
Last week. It was in last week's paper.
All right,
And
so that
I
would
talked
be
to Brendan on I talked to Brendan on Friday, and he hadn't actually emailed. I think he was emailing the contractors that day the specifications and the bid along with that.
All right. Would you check with Brendan to see how many contractors he was able to get in touch with, and if the 11th is too pressed, then we can do it on the 18th. But if you have a few that can still come on Wednesday and the others can come up ad hoc, I think that would be fine.
Okay, I'll talk to him tomorrow about it.
Okay, because this seems way rushed.
Okay.
Okay, good.
Sound good. Okay, the disinfection grant, we did receive the results for the sample that was sent out a couple months ago that are included in the report for our UV disinfection. We still do have a deadline for 2024 to have that installed. However, as we discussed in the past, if the funds are not given to us and readily available, then we won't be installing it. This basically forces their hand into giving us funds.
Okay.
We can discuss that more later if you'd like, but I did talk to Brendan about making sure we are still in the running for the grant and whatnot. And as far as I know, they hadn't actually released the due date for the new round yet.
Okay.
And then the generator grant, I asked them today, we still had not received any new information on whether or not we received it. Obviously, if we don't receive it, we'll tap into the funds that we have left open, the loan amount and whatever we have left, to replace the one at the wastewater plant. And then the last thing I really have on here is schooling for JR. I'd like to get him signed up for his activated sludge, which is actually June of 23, not July of 23. And the basic operations is December of 23. There were other options, but they really weren't conducive with our work hours and his lifestyle and whatnot. He's got a pregnant wife at home and stuff. So as long as it's okay, I will sign him up for those courses tomorrow.
Yeah, I think we can.
I kind of have to do it ahead of time because if you wait too long, they basically get full, and then you got to wait for the next courses, and that's happened to us once already.
Right. Yeah, and if, God forbid something happens and we need to cancel, we would be refunded.
Yeah, there's within 2 business days,
Okay.
you have to let them know prior.
Can we send more than one?
More than one what?
Yeah, a watershed, village operator, and he's getting his water plant.
No, so JR has the time required to take the course. If the way it works, or the way it's supposed to work, is they're supposed to put their time in first and then go to schooling, and then they can take the exam once that's done. They're supposed to have the hands-on experience first prior to going to school for wastewater.
Okay, no problem.
Good.
Yep.
Anybody have any additional questions for Ed? I do have a few. So,
Okay.
not that you would expect any less of me, Ed. First of all, the final payment for the upgrade project, I know the EFC loan is still out, so that will be closed when we do the final testing in June. Is that when that gets closed out?
Brendan's handling all that. I'm not exactly sure of that end of things. I do know that, as we had discussed in the past, we weren't closing the loan out right away because we wanted to make sure we had availability for funds instead of having to apply for another loan if the funds are needed to replace the generator.
Right.
So I don't know how that all falls in with closing on the loan through EFC,
Okay,
but that would definitely be a question for Brendan.
I just like to ensure that everything is working well by the time we do the final run through in June, before everyone is paid and they don't come back.
Yeah.
Okay.
It shouldn't, but if you have questions, anything to do with that, I have no problem asking Brendan for it, or you can email him.
Yep. And then the other thing is, with all the water meters, the old water meters that are being pulled, what are we doing with those? Is there any plan to recycle them?
Yeah, they're in a scrap pile right now.
Okay. So what?
That I have. Well, the plan is to get a big enough scrap pile to take to the junkyard and just make one run, not 10.
Okay.
So I've been piling scrap from the project, meters, anything that I find. I've been putting in a pile, and we're going to take one giant load down at some point.
Okay. Is there anything that needs to be removed from the meters, separated from the meters? I'm just thinking that we have.
Yeah, I do that. I do that prior to putting it in the scrap pile. I pull any plastic out of them and pull the heads off of them, and those just go in the trash, and then the metal is thrown in the metal pile.
Okay, if you have any backlog, save that because we have one employee who is on light duty, and I'd like to make sure that there's sufficient work for him to do.
Yeah, unfortunately, unless we throw it in a dump truck and not the trailer, then he'd still have to lift that stuff. I mean, I have 1,000-pound pumps and stuff from the project that are sitting there. He can't handle that stuff.
No, not those. I'm thinking of the smaller stuff and the meters.
Yeah, trying to save on fuel and just make one run instead of multiple. That's all.
No, I hear you. Just asking you to think outside the box.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
All right. Anybody else? All right. Thank you, Ed. You have a nice evening.
You too. Thank you.
Thanks. See you tomorrow.
Yep.
Okay. So the next is old business to review the final draft of the local law regulating and permitting the placement and use of recreational vehicles as temporary residences on residential properties. So just for the folks who are listening, this is just a discussion. This is not for public comment. Copies will be posted pending our discussion here. So with the revised version, this has been reviewed by our lawyers Miller, Mannix, Schaffner, and Hafner. It was revised from what we had originally put through. First, they have added a clear appeals process for the determinations of the land use officer for extensions on properties in case there's any sort of conflict. And then they've added in some more enforcement flexibility. And then they've removed reference to this law applying to recreational vehicles that are actually affixed to permanent foundations. So those are falling under motorhomes, and New York State has strengthened their laws recently regarding motorhomes. So that kind of covers that. So did anyone have any specific comments or questions? I'll just go through the highlights. I won't read it all. Section 1 is the legislative intent and authority. That just says we can put a law together, and it cites the village law sections related to doing this, setting up laws in municipal home rule. The local law repeals in its entirety local law number 2 of 1980, regulating the placement and use of tents or mobile homes as temporary residences, and replaces it with regulations contained herein regulating the use and placement of recreational vehicles as temporary residences. So again, this is on residential properties, not on commercial properties. Commercial properties has another code. So definitions of dwelling is any building or portion designed exclusively for residential occupancy. That would be 1, 2, or multiple families. Law enforcement officer is our code enforcement officer, Rick Rumsey. A lot is a parcel of land identified as a single tax map parcel for assessment purposes. And an RV is a vehicular type that can be towed, hauled, driven, primarily designed for temporary living. And it goes into more detail. And again, this will be available to the public. So permitting, basically unlawful to place a recreational vehicle on any lot within residential zoning as set forth by our land use code without permitting. And the permitting, of course, has to include property owner's name, vehicle owner name, the names of the occupants, phone numbers, addresses, and only one permit is issued per taxable parcel at any given time. Owners can obtain the permit for a temporary residence for a maximum of 15 consecutive days. Permits will be subjected to fees set forth by the village board per resolution. There is an exception for construction purposes, which has been asked quite a bit about. So property owners may obtain a permit for the placement and use of an RV as a temporary residence on a lot located in the residential district in excess of 15 days for periods of construction. So the property owner must have an approved building permit, The RV must be connected to municipal water, sewer, or septic if available and pay the appropriate hookup fees. Permits under this exception would be for a maximum period of 180 days, which would be renewable by the land use officer for an additional 180 days upon showing by the property owner that due diligence is being made to construct the residence in a reasonable period of time. The RV will cease to be used as a residence upon receiving a C of O, certificate of occupancy, and then payment for a fee will be in the amount set by resolution. Occupancy of a recreational vehicle on a lot within a residential area without a permit is prohibited, and the placement of an RV shall be in accordance with the setbacks that are in the zoning. No permanent structural additions, so you can't build a porch or a covering or anything like that added to any recreational vehicle, which is basically the same as what we had before or what was in the laws before. A concern for all waste from showers, toilets, laundries, faucets, and lavatories shall be flushed into the municipal sewer or septic tank as appropriate. Each RV has adequate equipment to prevent littering, like a rubbish bin, and that would be set out at the appropriate times. Recreational vehicle storage. They may be stored on a lot within residential, provided that there's an existing dwelling on the lot. There's no occupancy of the vehicle, and the vehicle is stored no closer to the property line than the minimum setback requirements. There is an appeal process in Section 9. Any determination of the land use officer as to approval or denial of a recreational vehicle permit under this local law is appealable to the Village Board of Trustees. The appeal must be submitted to the board in writing within 30 days of the land use officer's determination at issue. The Board of Trustees shall hear the appeal and issue its determination thereon in writing to the property owner within 30 days of receipt of the appeal. And then regarding enforcement, the land use officer is authorized to administer and enforce this law. This authority includes reviewing permits, issuing and denying permits, commencing enforcement proceedings with village court or town court in our case. So that will be modified. Any person who commits or permits any act in violation of any provision shall be deemed to have committed a violation against the law, and each day a violation shall continue. Each day such violation shall continue or be permitted to exist shall constitute a separate violation. And then for every violation, it's not more than $200 per day per violation. And upon, sorry, I'm losing my way here. The land use officer may commence a proceeding if it's appropriate. And then authorization of village board, a Supreme Court action may be commenced to enforce the terms of the law and seek injunctive relief and or civil penalties. And there's a saving clause and an effective date. So after all that, any comments, questions? No? Okay. All right. So barring the point, I'm just going to double check with the village court, because we don't have a village court anymore, if that needs to be changed to a town court or some modification. So with that minor clarification, I would like a motion to hold a public hearing on our next business meeting, which would be January 23rd, hold a public hearing on the law before it would be voted on. So, Trustee Smith, second. Mark, okay. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, motion is carried, and a public hearing on the law will be held 2 weeks from today, and it will be available on the website, and people can come in and pick up a copy of the law.
Just need everybody to agree.
Say what?
Do you need everybody to agree?
Oh, I'm sorry. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say no. Motion carries. Thank you, Mark. It's been a long day already. All right, so that's done. Okay, and then just by way of the update regarding the employees of DPW seeking the Teamsters as their representative in negotiations and arbitration. There was going to be a hearing with the PERB judge tomorrow. That has been changed because she has a conflict or something, so we should know more in 2 weeks. But it looks like they're going forward with having the Teamsters represent them in those matters. I will keep you informed. Okay, Rick Rumsey, at this time, just an annual highlight of the code enforcement activities. Yep, come on up, Rick.
Okay. 2022 was my first full year as code enforcement officer, and clearly the most challenging part was getting through all the coursework and becoming certified. That was, I won't say it was an ordeal, but
Almost Herculean.
yeah. There were 9 different areas I had to become certified in. So there were 9 courses, 9 tests, and it was a little bit daunting.
Thank you for doing that.
Oh, it's no problem.
I really appreciate that.
There were no problems in dealing with the public. Everyone was very understanding. It was my first year. I think my dealings went very well with homeowners and property owners, and with also with building contractors,
Okay.
many of whom I already knew, but many of whom I got to know over the course of the year. There were no complaints or objections to the new fee schedule, which took effect, I think, July 1st.
Good.
There were 34 building permits issued. The revenue from those building permits was $46.10. And that is pretty much what I have to report for the code enforcement.
Yeah, Jim.
What was the income last year before you?
I don't know.
Do we know off the top of our heads? I don't think it's ever been very much.
No, we would have to look it up. I don't know that because
Yeah.
fees went up. But we did have a lot of permits go out during
COVID.
COVID time.
Yeah.
It was exceptionally high, so.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
As far as activities for the zoning officer, I fielded numerous phone calls about properties and where I can put my shed, where my generator should go, all those kind of things. I want to put addition on my building, which side of the building should I put it on, and so that was quite a bit of activity there. There was also quite a bit of activity with the short-term rentals. I can't tell you how many calls I got from people saying, I want to finish the upstairs of my garage, I want to put an addition on my house, I want to do this for the purpose of a short-term rental. So I know that's being debated and so forth at the town level. I'm kind of looking forward to finding out what the new law would be and whether the village of Speculator wants to enact something on its own or what. But there's been quite a bit of activity in that area. There was one issue that came up. There was a shed that encroached on its back border. It's on a road where the lots are very small, and virtually all the neighbors are doing exactly the same thing. But in this case, the building of the shed actually brought it over the 25% coverage of the property. They went to 28%. So I looked into why that was, and it's very unclear to me what happened. For sure, there was a mistake made somewhere. But I can tell you that the original permit for this was 3 years ago, and they've re-upped their permit every year for the last 3 years.
And did they build according to the specs on that permit?
I don't know. There's nothing in the file as to the size of the building. The building's fairly large. So
We need to make sure that's on future permits, the size.
oh, it is.
It is.
Yeah, it is.
So,
And I don't know where there was.
But you may have just left blank.
Yep, there was no drawing. There was nothing on the original permit.
so it's being finished when Rick took over. Start to unring that bell.
But there was only one complaint, so that was a good thing, and that was really only during the construction phase. There was a complaint that the parking for the people constructing it and for the house was kind of restricting the drive. So,
And that's been corrected now?
yeah, now that it's done,
And does that property still have sufficient space for parking?
yes.
All right, any questions, comments for Rick? Again, I reiterate, thank you very much for doing that training and for taking this position. We know it's really a great act of service that I appreciate.
So if it's over the allotted percentage, there's just nothing you can do about it because it was permitted?
Well, at this point, barring any complaints by people in the area, it just becomes a non-conforming building. I mean, it's there, not much we can do.
And then you're just looking at both.
I think just the volume of calls for that, many calls.
But do we know how many have actually done it? Because you don't really have to permit for it, do you?
No.
Yeah. So
Well, I might have to, it depends upon if it's gonna be an alteration, it's not gonna change any electric or plumbing or bearing walls or anything like that, then I probably don't have to issue a permit, but, I don't have any idea.
And at this time, there really isn't a record that I know of anywhere.
Well,
Except if you can kind of track them down on Airbnb or the Verbo.
I think you'd have to do a study by going to Verbo and
Right.
Airbnb and requesting from the area
Right,
is doing this.
there's
Or
quite a few.
voluntarily, usually come forward and sign if
Right.
they want it. Or require a permit for them to do it.
Yeah.
Which a proposal is forthcoming. All right, thank you, Rick, appreciate it.
Adios.
And we'll be working on the codes this week, general codes, so we can
Yes.
get back to them. Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, next up is the fire department. I haven't forgotten your housing. I had corrected the agenda, Rebecca, and I had included housing, and I neglected to forward the correct copy. So we will add you on your discussion. So Speculator Volunteer Fire Department, Chief O'Brien. So as you make your way to the table, and yes, the assistant chief, which he may have to change his abbreviation on his, I know he does. He is very funny. So Assistant Chief Ryan Marshall has provided us with a letter informing us that just after Christmas, they were awarded the 2022 DEC grant to purchase forestry pants and boots for members so that firefighters don't have to wear the bulky structural firefighting personal protective equipment, which I hardly agree, especially in the summer. Department would need 11 sets of pants, 20 pairs of light duty boots, and the total cost of the project is $4,075. The plan was to cover $1,500 from the grant allocation of our budget, which is a grant match. $1,500 is reimbursed from DEC, and the remainder of the funds will be covered through funds raised by the department to complete the project. And the department will write a check to the village once the final amount has been determined with the shipping costs of approximately $1,000. So this had been done before, and so this is an information. There are 2 grants that they're going to write for as well. They would not come due if awarded until next year, next fiscal year. So when those are going in, you know, the matching portions of that we would have to make sure that those are covered in the budget. So, Chief O'Brien, you wanted to talk about moving officers.
Yes, with Mike Tracy leaving, it's opened a spot as assistant chief. So we would like to move Dylan Donner, who is captain, up to assistant chief to fill that vacancy, and then we'll leave the captain spot vacant for now. We have one other captain in the spot, but we'd like to move Dylan up.
How many assistant chiefs do you have? 2. Okay, and so Ryan is the first, and Dylan would be the second. How long has Dylan served? How Trustee Doniker, how long has Dylan?
I would
Does
say
anybody know?
he graduated, he came here full time.
He's got a lot of qualifications.
Okay.
He's definitely stepped up in the past year a lot.
Okay.
Since he got the captain spot, he's been very diligent about being there. He makes almost all the calls.
Okay.
Very knowledgeable. So
Okay, and a good leader?
very good.
Because in those tense situations, we need people who can step up and do that well. So I think we need to vote on that, right? So I'd like to make a motion to promote Dylan Doniker from captain to assistant chief. Is there an assistant chief 1 or assistant chief 2? Okay, assistant chief 2. May I have a motion? Rebecca, second. Jim, any comments, questions?
I have to
I
abstain.
guess. Okay, so Mark.
Wonder why.
Mark is abstaining. Okay, so all in favor of making Dylan assistant chief 2, say aye. 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 All opposed? Abstain is trustee Doniker, and the motion is carried. So our congratulations to Dylan. I know that Mike has already left. He arrived already. Oh, wow, okay, congratulations to him. We did send a certificate of appreciation for the 19+ years that Mike served on the fire department, as well as his commitment through GAVAC to be our local paramedic and fly car driver. It's going to be big shoes to fill, although he did miss birth of a baby this morning. I'm sure he didn't miss it at all. He don't care about us. No. All right, good. Any other comments, thoughts? Everything's going all right?
It's going good. Year to date, or to the end of the year, it was 63 calls.
Wow, that's up.
Up, yes. So.
Isn't that up by like 20?
Yeah.
Don't you usually get about 40?
40 to 50.
Is that because of mutual aid?
Mutual aid bumped a little bit, but Lake Pleasant, you know, but right now I think we're sitting at 6 or 7 to the year.
Wow.
Yeah,
Already.
yeah, and I think SBAC has 12 or 13 already,
Yeah.
and I hope it doesn't keep, and we had a banner year ending 2022, so people need to settle down. All right, thank you so much, Matt, thanks for everything, and we're praying for snow.
Yeah, we should. Yeah, thank you for that.
I appreciate it. We appreciate you.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks.
Okay, so the next up is, if you will recall, I believe it was all the way back in June that we were asked by New York State to participate in the wastewater surveillance program. And so what I did is I asked Ed to forward those, and it looks like we're doing pretty well. We are below the levels seen in other areas, as one would expect. A lot of the times very low detection numbers, falling under the average. And this month, we just got the latest one, and it's bumped up just a.
Here's a sheet of ice outside.
Oh,
Thank you.
okay, thanks.
Thanks.
So, we're doing really well. So stay healthy and don't do anything dumb. Okay. All right, good. So I just wanted to share that with you. I believe we are the only wastewater system in Hamilton County that is participating in that. So that's good.
Thank you, Ed.
Yes.
The other towns participate?
Oh, they don't have a wastewater treatment. They don't have wastewater treatment
We're the
plants.
only ones.
Yep. They have water systems. A few of them have water, but we're the only ones who have wastewater. And they have to go to Fulton, and so you can actually, there is actually a website that you can go to check out how we do according to everybody else, but we're significantly lower. So the box plot, if you look at page 2, there's a box in the middle, and that is the median across wastewater treatment facilities across New York. And so the average is about 0.2, and we are about 0.1. They're 0.3, sorry. The median is 0.3 and we're 0.1. Good. Okay. All right, moving on. Trustee Doniker, if you just want to give a little update about the proposed Adirondack cross-country snowmobile race for January 28th. Hopefully we'll have snow and ice for that.
Yeah, I spoke to Justin during the week. We're going to do January 17th to decide if we're going to have the race or not. Right now, 2 days ago, there was a foot of water between the shoreline and the ice. I measured 2.5 inches. So it's basically based on the weather. And I think Friday they said some snow, but turned into rain. So he'll make a decision by the 17th.
Okay, and for that, the permitting is done through DEC to use the lake, and then use of the pavilion area, not the pavilion itself, because that's where the ice rink is, but the parking lot and things like that comes through the village. So we'll have a meeting before that time. Rebecca, it looks like you have a question.
I did. I'm wondering, did they have to have a permit related to providing porta potties? That there can be that many people? Does it fall under this other thing where when people use the pavilion?
Yeah, we would need to, so what they have to do is with this program, they have to estimate how many, so they have to get a permit from DEC, and they have to get sheriff. So we don't know yet at this time how many people there are. So if there are more than the requisite number, because I believe we have 4 bathrooms open. So one in the pavilion, 3 in the fire department, and if there are more people than would accommodate that, then yes, we would have to do something, but man, that's gonna be cold.
Also, are they starting near the flower gardens to the point? Are they far away from those?
No, they would not be running, no, they do not run over the garden. No, so they enter where the snowmobile enters, and then they would be going, as you're looking at the beach, looking to the far end, the west end of the lake, they'd be going up the left side, the southern side of the lake, and they would be starting and ending. They would make a loop and, switchbacks and stuff, and end on that side. But nowhere do they go up on village property except where the other snowmobiles
No, there was one section where we're going to plow so they can get power on the park down to where the power is.
Right, but they're not running snowmobiles there.
No, and just so they could set up their timing trailer.
Right. Yep. So the gardens are not harmed in this scenario.
No flowers, no.
Yes, exactly. They're all good. Yeah. Okay. Good. Thank you, Mark. So I'm praying for good snow weather.
Yeah.
You never know. Okay, so next up is there's two new property tax exemptions that were signed into law, and they are one is something that we have to do, and the other one is an opt-in. So the one that we have to do is notifying seniors, senior citizens. Let me get the right thing here. Yes. So the new law requires municipalities where real property tax exemption for seniors exists, which I believe we have. Don't we, Tracy? Don't we have senior exemptions? Star? Yeah.
Yeah, that's not just senior.
I don't think that this is.
Yeah.
But that's others.
That's not
Do we
senior.
have?
I'm sorry.
So we're evaluating with Barry Baker. So, but I believe we have it. So where there's real property exemption for seniors, we need to notify seniors that they may be eligible to receive an exemption via a second notice. The first notice is already mandated and is found at the front and back of every tax bill. I gotta check my tax bill. This second notification must be sent 30 days prior to the March 1 taxable status day filing deadlines. So this needs to be done by January 30th. In speaking with Lake Pleasant, it's been deemed that the easiest way to contact the people who would qualify as seniors would be to have the assessor send it out, because they would send it out for both Lake Pleasant and Speculator, and that's one job, and they can get it off of the, there are some rolls that they have. So there's a list of registered voters that has a date of birth field, and they can sort that by age just to make sure that everybody is covered in that.
So we're not doing it, the assessor.
The assessor will be doing
And they have
it.
to have it done by when?
The 30th.
Of this month?
January 30th, yes. So I said, what we could also do is, if they would write up a notice, we can post it on our website. So that's for the senior.
Do we know enough?
Jeanette, I just got my bill and it says you're eligible, you may be eligible for a senior citizen tax exemption. You have till March 1st of each year to apply. If it granted, it would apply to your next tax bill. For further information, contact your assessor or the Office of Agent in Lake George.
Okay? So look, and that's on the back of your tax bill.
Yeah, that's correct. Just got it the other day.
Okay, so look on the back of your,
Apply this year.
correct.
Right,
It applies to next year. It's always a little bit later.
and they have to do it,
So now a
yearly?
second notice
So you
has
have
to
to
be
do
done.
it yearly? Or is
That I
it a
don't
one-time
know.
thing? I mean,
That
once
we
you're
need
a
to
senior,
check.
you're a senior.
Yeah, right. Is this in,
This is for a primary residence.
is this in addition to STAR?
It starts different.
Different.
Start different.
Totally different.
Yeah,
Start,
this is separate.
this is another one.
Yeah.
Contact the Office of Aging in Lake George.
Yeah, that title.
More information.
Yeah. So now we gotta see how many young, old people are gonna contact the Department of Aging.
I'm making the phone call tomorrow.
Yeah, me too.
I'm not a senior.
Well, it depends on what your definition is. Is it 62? Is it 65? Is it 67? It's just for public record, if it's 65, I don't qualify. Right. If it's over 45, I do. Okay, so the other opt-in law, the other opt-in tax law would allow for an exemption of up to 10%. So that would be something that a village or town would decide. So it allows for an exemption up to 10% of the assessed valuation of the primary residence of volunteer firefighters and or volunteer ambulance workers. So in order to authorize the exemption, a municipality must opt in via adoption law, which I have provided you a sample copy of. So the basic eligibility criteria noted above, the following requirements would apply. The property must be owned by the firefighter or ambulance worker. The volunteer must reside in the jurisdiction served. The property must be the primary residence. It must be used exclusively for the volunteer's residential purposes. And if it's used for other purposes, including residential, then that exemption is modified. The authority having jurisdiction, that would be us, or the authority having jurisdiction, which would be SBAC or the fire department, would have to certify that the volunteer is an enrolled member in the department in good standing and has the service. And that service can be the minimum service requirement that would need to be determined is anything between 2 and 5 years. And we would have to adopt some procedure for certifying that the volunteers are eligible and active. So there are a few other things that go on that anyone who accrues more than 20 years of active service would be eligible for lifelong ownership of the property, so long as it remains their primary residence. So there are a few other things in there. So I was emailing Supervisor Bain about what's going on in Lake Pleasant, and the discussion that they had with their board was that for the fire department, we do have a program for long-term service award called LOSAP.
Right.
And with that, we provide a payment of $700 per year that goes into an account, up to a certain age, and then they actually get $700 a year for their service award. No such award or program exists for the ambulance corps. So it's of the current opinion for the Lake Pleasant that they would not provide an exemption for the firefighters, but would like to consider it for the ambulance. And I have to say that would be a nice gesture.
Do a lot.
Yeah.
The thinking being that the fire department already gets a bonus.
Yeah.
Right.
And the ambulance does get something.
Gets nothing. Right. So,
So if you give, I don't know, the example of maybe 10%.
so that's the maximum that the state allows.
Right. So it would be collected from that tax person, but does the village budget for that?
So if your taxes, let's say we decide within 5 years, and we decide, yep, it's $100, you would pay 90. So they would reduce your tax by 10%. So long as you're.
As a board, do we have to know how many people and how much reduction there is? Because that's less revenue.
So yes, correct. So as a board, we would have to determine what those criteria are if we wish to do it. So you can do a 2% back, 5% back, 10% back. We could also require, hey, you have to serve for 5 years before that eligibility, and with
And that's just strictly on village.
that's only
taxes,
village taxes.
Not town.
Correct.
So the town is looking at doing something
Correct.
and they're gonna do it based on,
They don't know yet, but they're thinking that the SVAC would be appropriate. So they hadn't talked to anyone in SVAC because they didn't know whether ambulance people got a break of any kind like LOSAP. So I did inform Betsy that they did not. So I can be considered biased because I have served as an EMT for 7 years. That's public knowledge. But I think it would be a nice gesture to do that because they do put a lot. We have to get certified. Every.
for voting for this with ambulance personnel have to be, have to abstain. I mean, that's 3 of us on the board.
2 of us. 2.
What?
There's 2 of us on the board, you and me.
Yeah, but then.
But there are 3 left.
So that would be 3.
Do I have those things?
I guess we would have to see how that would work. Yeah, because if there's only 2 people left,
You can't.
that would be challenging.
But am I allowed, do I have to abstain?
Well, let me check.
The village gave, say, 5%, and the town gave 5%. Total, they would get 10%.
No,
No.
because as you know, we pay 2/3 2/3 of the general fund. So we are assessed 2/3 of whatever goes into the general budget. So if the general budget in Lake Pleasant is 100,000, those are things that potentially serve both the village and the town. And so whatever portion would be allotted to a village resident, it's only, I believe it's 2/3 of that. And their tax compilation does not include the things that are specific for town only. So we don't pay, our taxes don't go for trash, but our taxes will go to the rec program. Our taxes won't go to their road repairs. Well, I think they do go to
Yeah,
road
they do.
repairs, sorry, that was a bad thing. So there are certain things that are specific to the town and are not included. So 2/3, so it wouldn't be that we would get 10%, a combination of 10%, but it would, it most likely would be 5% off of all the taxes. So if they give a 5% exemption, whether I pay 10% of their tax or whatever, it would be 5% off of that. If they decided 5% and we decided 5%, Speculator would get 5% off of their portion, and then they would get 5% or however percentage off of that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, just, Linda had, a raised hand. I don't know.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
Linda?
you answered it. You answered it just then with that explanation.
Okay, thank you, Linda.
That was my exact question.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Yeah, so it's not,
I know, I wondered about that.
what was that?
If your properties are in trust, that's for the previous.
Yeah, I think that's something to ask. Yeah, you have to be the owner, and it has to be your primary residence. So I think that would exclude trusts, I believe.
That's what I'm wondering.
But I think that's something that we need to ask. So I guess what I would like to know is whether we're interested in pursuing this a little bit further, and we can see how many. So the breaks are only to people who live in the village. So the entire squad does not live in the village.
Right.
So at this time, we can, find out how many people actually live in the village, approximately what kind of revenue we would be looking at, that we would be down a bit for this, and see whether we want to do that or not. So is this something that the board would like to pursue?
Yes.
I think so, yeah.
Okay. So may I have a volunteer or two who would help just put together a proposal?
Sure.
Okay. All right. So Mark and I will come up with some sort of proposal, figure out, what those revenues would cost us over the long term, and what those suggested parameters would be. Okay. Good. And we have until 1925 to implement those. So that's not something that has to be done right away.
I don't think we want to wait that long, okay?
No, good. 2025.
Have our ambulance call me
I'm
dead
sorry.
by then.
Yeah. 20.
1925, I don't want
No. 2020. Did I not have dinner tonight or something? It's December 9th, 2025 is when the provisions would have to be completed. Okay. So that's that. So, Trustee Smith, you wanted to mention something about long-term housing?
Yes. There was a Zoom discussion, and the presenters were from Living, ADK, which is a nonprofit. And so they have come up with the idea of making money available to first-time homeowners, or also to senior citizens that might be thinking about selling their home, that they would sign something that says they will only use it for long-term residence, meaning it would have to be a long-term rental of 1 year, or when you sell your home, you don't sell it to a short-termer. You commit to this long-term housing. They're trying to figure out how can we have more housing available for the workers that we need in the area.
Right.
And so they're just a resource that's available to if people want to go down that road and another way of thinking in terms of how to provide this housing for these younger families that are trying to start out. Just an option. That's out there.
Interesting.
And so rather than having to build a whole new house, you've already got a house, maybe someone's going to vacate.
Right.
They make a commitment, a legal commitment towards long-term housing, and the person purchasing it also signs that kind of an agreement. So,
Oh.
just that people are looking at this from a lot of different angles.
Yeah, that's an interesting option. Good. That's very good.
You know, just not to go down a different stream, but, you know, the AARP is out there barking up the tree for adjunct apartments onto seniors' homes now to assist seniors in staying in their homes. So, and there's talk about that. And that's, but then you gotta be careful. You authorize some senior to put
An apartment.
a caregiver apartment.
Yeah.
And then they turn it into Airbnb.
Yeah.
When they die.
Stabbing you in the back.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not that any of these programs have not had their flaws.
Yes.
Okay, but good. So you'll be meeting again this month, and you'll ask if there's an end date for their proposal, because I think it's important that we start moving on that. I just wanted to make you aware under board roundtable of the NICOM legislative agenda. I think it's turned out well. They are focusing on increased state aid to cities and villages, providing dedicated funding for local water and sewer infrastructure, sort of like a CHIPS program, only for water and sewer, which would be great. Increase in highway funding, removing tax cap disincentives for economic growth. So if you're investing in an infrastructure project or a big project that's going to help economic growth, but it shouldn't be penalized for your tax cap. They are looking to reform civil service law, and as you know, any employees, even though we don't have civil service for us in the village, if you've worked for the village for 5 consecutive years, then you're treated as civil service. So that would impact us. Safety considerations and bail determinations, which is great throughout the city. Support funding for New York State EMS service providers. This does not include Speculator because the village doesn't run that. So this would allow villages to charge for EMS services. Tools to enhance vacant, distressed, and abandoned properties, financial incentives to revitalize properties, limit the application and cost of prevailing wage mandate, promote sustainable and alternate energy resources, invest in electronic waste recycling, which is huge. As you know, lithium batteries and all those issues, there's no way to get rid of them. Broadband access and accountability is ongoing. So there's more detail available, and if any of the public would like a copy of that, they can contact the office. There was a question that had come in regarding the Peters Oil Company property. So that's that little piece of property where we put a park bench out by what's now Fire Tower Pizza, that area. So just so we're up to date, according to Barry Baker, the site was a former gas station. The underground fuel tanks were leaking and DEC declared it a hazardous site. They effectively cleaned up the site and placed a $48,000 lien on that little piece of property. And the owner had walked away from the property long ago, so there were also back taxes owed the county of approximately $41,000. And that includes penalties and interest as the county was making school, village, and town taxes whole for that property. So reportedly, the site cannot be developed in its present condition as the subsurface soil is not supposed to be disturbed. The soil would need to be removed, treated, as in burned, before development. So that combined with the liens of nearly $90,000 render the property basically worthless from a valuation standpoint. Barry has advised the county not to foreclose on the property, and he had the assessed value of the property removed. So the county should not assume liability for the DEC cleanup, and there's no reasonable expectation that the county would recover the lien amount at auction. So what he has been doing is he's been attempting to have the governor forgive the DEC lien, and if that would occur, the county would waive the back taxes. And the discussion would be for the county to then foreclose and proceed to donate the village property to the village, provided that it's used exclusively for community purposes. So personally, I think that's a very clean way to go forward on a very dirty piece of property. But it's a matter of attempting to have the governor forgive the lien. So what I would
And it's okay to be used as a park.
as a right, so long as we don't dig down and disturb the dirt. Like you can't bury.
Do not dig.
Yeah. So you're not going to plant deep gardens. You're not going to dig a well. You're not going to do anything like that.
Didn't Barry say that they remediated the property?
Yeah,
What does that mean?
Subsurface.
Well, they took some of it away. So they remediated the big stuff by taking out the tanks.
There's also grants for brownstones, which are,
So I think there are things that we could do to fix it up further.
yeah, to use it as a commercial piece of property.
Right. So I think there are things that we could do to move that forward. However, the biggest thing is that it has to go up for foreclosure.
Right.
Right? So we have to get the governor to forgive the loan or the lien and the county to forgive the taxes, and then we'd be able to do something with it. So what I would like to suggest is that, on behalf of the board, I would like to speak with our state senators and our state assemblymen to see if there is something that they could do on our behalf. It's just a little piece of something, to help us go forward. So if you guys are good with that, I'll reach out to them and see if there's something we can do to push it forward, because I know it's been quiet for a long time.
Yeah, I agree, because it could be a good piece of commercial property. Somebody could build something.
Well,
I don't think you
can.
Well, that's the question, the remediation. Somebody would have to come and do a phase 1 or phase 2.
Yeah, so as it is right now, you cannot do it, right? But unless you dig it all up and you burn the dirt and things like that. So what Mark is saying is that there are grants available for these what do they call them?
Brownstones.
Brownstone. So brownfields. So there are grants available that perhaps we could do to remedy that and then turn it into a useful
But
property.
we still want to have that lien forgiveness.
Yes,
Yeah.
well, that's the first step that we
Yeah.
have to do, because we can't do anything after that. So the first step is getting the lien, regardless of whether we just keep it as a park.
Linda has her hand up again.
Oh, hi, Linda.
No, it's Chris. Hi, Jeanette.
Hi.
Jeanette, there are the products out that can be augered into the ground for foundation. So if you wanted to put up a pavilion or some other structure there, there are products out that can be augered into the ground that do not disturb the ground.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, they're called. Again, I can't think of the name. We use them in the electric industry in those exact locations where the ground is, where you can't excavate or disturb it.
And how much more is the cost on that, Chris?
They're not expensive at all. I'll send you something, Jeanette, once I get some documentation, just for future use.
Yeah.
Because I always wondered what that empty spot was.
A lot of people have. No, but that's great. Yeah, and Shorty? Robert Hoffman?
Peter Doyle is the Brownsfield.
Yeah.
Things of it is, they remediated the soil, they remediated the fuel leak only, which was a leaky gas.
Yeah.
What was underneath the original building, they have no clue, and that's why they say don't disturb the concrete.
Up to a certain point.
Because they don't even know.
Yeah.
And they knew that the lift that used to be in the building, it leaked profusely. One of the previous owners used to dump his oil out the back thing on the ground. This is all
Yeah.
rumors.
Yeah. Well, the bottom line is, the first thing is to get the governor to forgive the
Very good.
DEC. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so within the,
You could take and put down landscaping timbers and do like your.
yeah, stuff on the surface.
Your
Yeah.
base gardens.
Right.
And you get some green.
We're not putting any food in there. Maybe a plant, but no food.
Well, you know, I didn't.
No, I know.
I'm talking about flowers, not.
I'm thinking food. I just filled out a food survey for the University of Albany. Like, how many gardens do you have? How big are your farms in your community? Little one at the end. All right. So, with your approval, I'll go forward and put a letter together for our elected state officials to see if they can help us with that. Terrific.
ask these questions on the back.
I did.
Have you read those?
Yes, do you know what the history of the property is? It's Phillips Oil. Why are there no property taxes? He did it in the front. Property owner is legally responsible. So, I mean, basically he's walked away, he's not doing anything, so we mow it. Do you know what has been done with respect to getting the owner to clean the property? Basically nothing. And then what's needed for us to assume it, and that's to apply for forgiveness. So yes.
Gotcha. Thank you.
So I'm trying to do my due diligence there, Jim. Okay, so next up is a grant opportunity through the Adirondack Foundation. If you recall, they gave us a $10,000 grant for the McComas Fire Tower, which is still open 365 days a year from sun up to sundown. But they have a generous acts application open, and they are hoping to make $50,000 worth of grants in the Central Adirondacks this year. And they would like to receive applications from any nonprofit, school, or municipality in Speculator or Hamilton County. So I would like to reach out to them. There's an informational meeting on the 11th of January. The due date is February 1st, 2023. And as a project, I would like to suggest three things. So the first is to please let us fix the flooding in the parking lot that has been our nemesis for decades. So there are two options for that, and I believe they're talking to CL about some of the excavation. So one is a product that it looks like, do you remember the old crates that you would use for 2-liter soda bottles? It kind of looks like that, and they cut them in half. They're about 4 inches deep, and what you do is you excavate down about a foot or so. You put large stone, then you put smaller stone, then you put these, for racks on top that are all interlinking into one big pad, and then you cover that with fine stone, and what that does is it allows the water to go and dissipate. You can drive on it, you can plow it, you can do all sorts of things, and it stays in place. Of course, so it's a huge area. For next board meeting, I've asked Roger, because that'll still be before the state, I've asked Roger to get a price on that. So that's one option for a grant. The second option would be a remedial fix that I'm not quite convinced of. And that would be take the lowest section of the parking lot and basically put in that grid system where you're digging a 4-foot or 6-foot wide trench. You're doing the same thing. You're digging down big rock, small rock, racks, do it over. And they think that might do the trick. I'm not convinced. So that's option 2. And then what I would love to do is our picnic tables are in horrific condition. They have not been maintained. They've not been replaced. And I would love to see if we can replace 15 to 20 tables. Is there an option where we can get folding tables that they can be put away in winter, for the ice rinks, so that we're cutting down on the maintenance of having to manually move them and displace them and store them? Is there a way that we can replace those and then begin to replace the benches that we have in the village that are made from the very, very heavy timber, and perhaps put in something a little more permanent? So in other villages and towns, they would put in a cement pad. They will put the benches in so you can actually sit in the winter if the snows are not so high. So something to that regard that would bring, help with the aspect of economic development, make the downtown, a more welcoming place where activities could go on. Those are my thoughts. So are there other things that you can think of? I mean, it's not a done deal. I've asked for pricing. No grant would be submitted without board approval. But are there any other pet projects that you think that would add beauty to the
For your ice rink.
ice rink? So I was getting frustrated today about our lack of ice rink because it's all weather dependent. So there is an ice rink we found that would work very well in our pavilion. It would run anywhere between $6,000 and $7,000. It is not dependent on packing it with snow. Yes, Jim? It's called Easy Rink.
It would exceed the $6,000. The square footage in there, the width is 47 feet. Side to side, we'd have to use a 45-foot pad.
But why would you go all the way to the very edge?
Yes.
You wouldn't.
But you need a buffer just for the support.
Yeah, well, you need a buffer for the support and be able to walk around the outside, right?
And then.
So about 40 feet then, because that would only allow.
45.
You said, but you said it's 48.
47 feet.
Yeah, it's 47 feet. So I would think it'd be a 40 foot wide.
And it's 99 feet from the present wall to the back wall.
So 40 by 80.
Yeah, 40 by 90 probably.
But you still need space to go on either side. So 85.
You said 99, right?
99.
Oh, it's 99, then 90. So I don't know how big the ice rinks are, but.
Yeah, we need to ask Roger about the old rubber lining that was unfortunately punctured. And Linda has her hand up again.
Linda? Chris?
Sorry, I never took it down.
Way to go.
I'm tired.
All right, go back on mute.
Thank you, Linda.
Go back on mute. Yes.
As far as the parking lot goes,
Okay.
I think we're at the point where we need it surveyed, we need to know what the geography is in there. Because we're putting a patch here and a patch there, and I think it goes beyond. I think we need someone professional that can help us slope it properly.
So it's not, so Lenny Crute from Soil and Water, who is advises Hamilton County, Roger and I walked the property again as far as what kind of solutions we have and what would need to be done. And so his suggestion is to do the whole area in that crate material. He does not think, Lenny does not believe that just a trench is going to do it. So he thinks the whole thing would have to be dug out, excavated out, and that would be something that we would have to hire out for. So we did apply for a grant for an engineer to come and do that project. So I think that was a $3,000 or $4,000 grant that we were looking for, like a feasibility study. So that's still in the works, and that wouldn't preclude us from putting in a grant for the thing, right? But are you thinking something beyond that? Or do you?
Beyond that, but I think we do need a professional.
So are you?
At this point, and not just putting a trench in or putting a few blocks here.
No, it's not a few. It's not a. No, it's not a few blocks here or there.
Kind of material if it was properly excavated.
Well, in speaking with Lenny Crute, who is a trained professional in this regard and has seen it work and has worked on these issues in other communities, his recommendation is to do a large area with the crating. And what you're saying,
Is he brand new to the town? Like, where has he been? Has he been doing this?
County. No, he works for the county, Soil and Water. He's been with County Soil and Water for quite a few years. Yeah, he's quite good. He's quite good at what he does. And then he had shown us a number of projects that they have recently done regarding runoff and water and things like that in Indian Lake. So if we wanted to see how something like this would work, there are some communities that he would point us to. But that's his professional recommendation after looking at it, and he lives locally, so he's familiar with our area.
That's good.
Right. So, Shorty?
At one time, that was swamp land.
I know. There's so much stuff in there that even excavating is a scary thing.
Anything and everything that was dumped in there that originally made the base, and that was before my time. But that's what it is. That was part of the river.
Yeah.
During
Yeah.
high water time.
Right.
It got filled in probably 60 years ago or something like that. So, like Becky said, I think it's time for an engineer to go in there. That's got to be built up. You can't make water run downhill.
So
that thing.
yeah, so we're not gonna fix it here because none of us are experts in that field. So what's gone out is that we've got a recommendation from someone who does soil and water, who knows the area that we're talking about and what things would. So it's not something you just dig it out, pile it in without any thought to how high you put in the stones and the rocks and things like that. So it's more of a plan than what I'm saying, that he would have the specifications for that. And then in addition to that, we would wait and see whether we would get an engineering grant. But before anything was done, there's got to be specs written up. There's got to be an evaluation of that.
Yeah, you need an engineer, and they would core bore and determine what would you have to do.
In the spring, the high water mark, the great level of that parking lot.
Yeah.
That parking lot is much higher than the river.
No. Yeah, and it's running off into the river as well, so there are those concerns, which is why you want soil and water and that sort of stuff. So as part of the grant project, we can, if we decide that the parking lot is the most important thing and not the tables and benches, we can make sure that as part of that proposal that it's, getting that professional evaluation by an engineer and excavators and whatever is all part of that. So that'll be, we'll get all those things together and see what we can propose to go forward. Okay, at least it's a grant opportunity where we might get a few bucks. Maybe. Yeah. It's always a possibility. And then, so then there's the ice rink. So there's some ice rink opportunities. We can speak to Roger about the rubber liner in the interim. And does anyone know what they bolstered the liner with? Was that done with snow, Mark? Or was that done with sandbags?
I think it was done with sandbags, but I have no idea.
You're freezing up.
I was told that they punctured the liner one year and they never put it down.
Yeah, I think it was, personally, I recall sandbags to be another mess.
Not as bad.
Yeah, okay, so I'll put that down to ask Roger. Because there's got to be something, we're missing some really great freezing weather, but we can't flood it because there's no snow to seal it off, and by the time snow comes, the weather's going to be warm, and we're not going to be able to do it. All right. Last and final board round table. The Department of Public Service, like all these cool things to help with energy. And so what I did is I ordered 2 sets of brochures, actually 2 sets and a consumer assistance program. So one is we have Take the Chill Out of Your Energy Bills brochure that's available here, and we're going to put some over at Chamber of Commerce. And these are suggestions and ideas and resources for heating, and if you need heating assistance. The other brochure that we have is Household Energy Use and Energy Saving Tips. That's available, kind of helpful, maybe. Yeah, I mean, there's some things that you can do. So those are available. And then there is a stack of papers that they sent us for the consumer assistant programs that are available for all the different energy programs that you may be qualified for. So for the public, we have that also available here, and we'll put some in the chamber. So anyone who would like to see that stuff is good. And then finally, if we ever get snow, snowmobile country, the Speculator region of the Adirondack Mountains, the snowmobile maps are now available here and at the chamber, and probably Charlie John's and just about everybody else. Okay, so I think I'm talked out. Anybody else have anything?
Just want to say, Father Sonny from the Catholic Church, if anyone needs assistance for heating oil or propane, just contact him and he'll help.
Father Sonny does that, and I believe our local Salvation Army as well will also be able to help.
We have some help.
We have some help available. So, Jim, who would they contact for Salvation Army? Would they call a general number, or would they call someone local?
Yeah, you talked to Lori Whiting.
Okay, so Lori Whiting of Lake Pleasant would be the person to contact, and Father Sonny from the Catholic Church would also be a person to contact for the public, for people who are having issues with paying for oil and propane. Good. All right, anything else? Do I dare ask for public comment before closing? I think we've commented enough. So,
All you gotta do is ask the government to put a cap on home heating oil and not worry about the price of a gallon of gas. You can park your car and walk to save gas, but you can only turn that thermostat.
it's true.
So far,
It's true. It's
$7 for a gallon of kerosene.
yeah, it's ridiculous.
Outrageous.
All right, and on that happy note, Mark,
I'd like to adjourn this meeting.
I would like to adjourn it as well. All right, thank you very much. I'm sorry it was a little longer than usual, but we did get a lot accomplished. All right, thank you. Have a good night. See you, Linda.
Good night.
Good night.
Can you give me a rest?
Recording stopped.